The man who conned his way to a $65 billion fortune. In 2008, Bernie Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison for running the biggest fraudulent scheme in US history. Even up to now, only a few of his victims have regained all of their losses. A well-respected financier, Madoff convinced thousands of investors to hand over their savings, falsely promising consistent profits in return. Before we get into the video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Also, comment below saying if you've ever heard of a Ponzi scheme before. He had a number of high-profile investors, including some well-known celebrities. These include Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick, who apparently lost millions. John Malkovich, whose losses have never been released but has received $670,000 of his investment back. Larry King, who suffered a $700,000 loss but thankfully recovered it all within a few years. Madoff was caught in December 2008 and charged with 11 counts of fraud, money laundering, perjury, and theft. Here's how Madoff conned his investors out of $65 billion and went undetected for decades. Madoff used a Ponzi scheme, which gets attention from investors by guaranteeing unusually high returns. The name originated with Charles Ponzi, who promised 50% returns on investments in only 90 days. Ponzi schemes are run by a central operator who uses the money from new incoming investors to pay off the promised returns to the older ones. This makes the operation seem profitable and legitimate, even though no actual profit is being made. Meanwhile, the person behind the scheme keeps the extra money, or they can use it to expand the operation. To stop too many investors reclaim their profits, Ponzi schemes encourage them to stay in the game and earn even more money. Once they've received their first highly inflated payment, usually an investor's eyes light up with dollar signs and invest larger amounts. The investing strategies are usually vague and very secretive, which the schemer will claim is to protect their business. Then all they need to do is tell investors how much they're making periodically without actually providing any real returns. Ponzi schemes aren't usually very sustainable. The setup eventually falls apart after the operator takes the remaining investment money and runs. New investors become harder to find, meaning the flow of cash dies out, or too many current investors begin to pull out and request their returns. In Madoff's case, things began to go wrong after clients requested a total of $7 billion back in returns. Unfortunately for Madoff, he only had $200 to $300 million left to give back, so it all came tumbling down. One of the main reasons Madoff managed to fly under the radar for so long, despite multiple reports to the SEC about suspicion of a Ponzi scheme, is because he was a well-versed and active member of the financial industry. He started his own market maker firm in 1960 and helped launch the Nasdaq stock market. He sat on the board of National Association of Securities Dealers and advised the Securities and Exchange Commission on trading securities. It was very easy for potential investors to believe that the then 70-year-old industry veteran knew exactly what he was doing. Madoff actually only made off with $20 billion, even though on paper he cheated clients out of $65 billion, according to CNN Money. That's not exactly a consolation for his thousands of investors who he had cheated. The 150-year sentence that was given, more symbolic than literal as he was already in his 70s when he was arrested, was followed by other convictions related to his scheme. A couple of years ago, 5 of Madoff's employees were found guilty for their part in the Ponzi scheme. Most recently, Madoff's accountant and lawyer are also facing up to 30 years in prison for his role. There are other notable Ponzi schemes in history, including Alan Stanford's, which stole $8 billion, and Tom Petter's, that cheated investors out of $3.7 billion. But as far as the scale goes, Madoff wins by a landslide. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future videos.